Right, hello guys, welcome back. When it comes to making turret builds for Prismatic Warlock, most people default to Getaway Artist as it's a really solid option for this specific playstyle. But the trouble with that build is that you're forced to run Feed the Void for survivability and therefore cannot use both Bleak Watcher and Hellion at the same time, at least not without sacrificing a major portion of your health sustain. However, that all changes here, because today I'm bringing you a Prismatic Warlock build that lets you run both Bleak Watcher and Hellion while still retaining Devour. So you get all the benefits from the standard turret builds, but this time with an extra buddy to help you cut through enemies with ease. And now that the Heresy Artifact is fully accessible, this build becomes especially potent with some of our curated perk choices. Getting right into it, today's build is going to revolve around the Warlock exotic class item, and in order to get the fullest potential out of it, we're going to need a very specific combo of perks, the first of which is Spirit of Filaments. Spirit of Filaments is going to make it so standing in an Empowering Rift grants Devour for 11 seconds that can be refreshed just like any other instance of Devour. Furthermore, this trait received a nice buff in episode Heresy where now kills while Devour is active grant class ability energy, and the actual amount is roughly 10% per kill, so within 10 kills or so you should be able to fully recharge it. This is great news because our Hellion uptime is directly tied to how fast we can get our class ability back, and now for simply getting kills we're recharging it faster, meaning we can have it active way more often. The only catch here is that the Devour granted by Spirit of Filaments is the regular version and not the enhanced variant provided by Feed the Void, so overall you gain less grenade energy and health from kills. However, this is where the second class item trait perfectly solves this problem, and it is Spirit of Starfire. Spirit of Starfire is going to make it so weapon kills from within an Empowering Rift grant a fixed 20% grenade energy, and also a small amount of grenade energy from dealing damage and not just kills. But this part is less important. The main draw from this trait is the large amount of grenade energy you get from kills. Plus, it synergizes very nicely with Spirit of Filaments since both require you to stand in your Empowering Rift to maximize their benefits. And actually, combining regular Devour with Spirit of Starfire yields more grenade energy per kill compared to just enhanced Devour on its own. So now the only thing that's somewhat lacking is the amount of health returned on kill, but worry not, as that's an easy problem to fix with what's coming later in the video. So just to recap, with the setup I'm about to explain to you, you're going to be able to enjoy all the benefits from the standard turret builds, but this time with even better grenade regen, better ad clear due to having an extra buddy to help out, and crazy strong survivability because of some awesome artifact synergies. So we ought to start by discussing our subclass configuration, but before we get stuck in, I'd encourage you to join my community Discord server. A big goal of mine this year is to expand my community, and if you're looking for a place where you can check out my full catalog of builds and hang out with me and the rest of our awesome community we have here, then do consider joining, link in the description. Okay then, starting things off with our super of choice, we have Song of Flame. This super is excellent for just about everything. It sports good damage for when you want to use it offensively, but can also act as a panic button during tense situations, with it providing an instant 90% damage resist on cast. And the best part, you can freely shoot your weapons while in it and are granted scorching rounds to your kinetic and solar weapons. For the class ability, we are of course taking Empowering Rift since both of our class item traits require it to function, but outside of that, having a 20% damage buff on demand is never not nice to have. For the melee, we're taking Arcane Needle as it's an excellent way to build large amounts of Dark Transcendence energy, and then for the grenade, we have Healing Grenade because it has the lowest cooldown, thus allowing our Bleak Watcher to have the most amount of uptime. Plus, if you're in a pinch and already have a stasis turret active, you can also just use the grenade for its intended purpose and get yourself fully healed. For the aspects, we of course want both Bleak Watcher and Hellion as they are going to act as our main supporting buddies, and while yes, this build doesn't have access to Arc Souls, Hellion is a very good replacement since the damage is actually fairly considerable and can also cause ignitions after only 4 shots on the same target. Getting into our fragment choices now, we actually have the luxury of running 6 of them since both Hellion and Bleak Watcher offer 3 fragment slots each. So for our first, we're taking Facet of Ruin. This fragment states that it increases the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increases the area of effect of ignitions, meaning that our shatters from Bleak Watcher deal more damage and the occasional ignitions from Hellion affect a larger radius. Next, we're taking Facet of Courage. This fragment is going to make it so your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs, and the main reason we want this is so Hellion and Song of Flame can deal a little extra damage. The bonus granted from Courage is 10%, and because our stasis turret is slowing and freezing everything, this fragment should be active almost all the time. After that, we have Facet of Solitude, which states that landing rapid precision hits emits a severing blast from the target, while Transcendent, the severing blast is bigger. And the main reason we have this is 1, to help with survivability, and 2, we currently have a rather strong artifact perk that provides Woven Mail for defeating severed targets, but more on that in the artifact section. Our fourth fragment is going to be Facet of Hope. This one is a no-brainer since it says that while while you have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. And it turns out this is a 60% bonus so long as you're holding at least 2 elemental buffs, which in our case is most often going to be a mix between Devour, Restoration, and Woven Mail. Next, we also have Facet of Purpose, so that collecting an Orb of Power grants Restoration ×1 for 5 seconds, so that our survivability is vastly improved. Finally, our last fragment is going to be Facet of Grace. This fragment states that defeating targets with kinetic weapons grants you bonus Transcendence energy, which neatly brings us onto the weapons and artifacts section, starting with the exotic Kvostov 7GOX. If you're a long-time fan of the channel, you'll know that this is one of my favorite kinetic primaries, and for good reason too. It deals with groups of ads really well and is also excellent for rapidly building both your light and dark Transcendence energies, especially when running Facet of Grace. Facet of Solitude also only takes roughly 12 bullets to trigger the Severing Burst with Kvostov, so they too pair very nicely together. It's at this point that we have a pretty solid build going, but the only thing that's still slightly lacking is our class ability regen, since after all, it's our only source of Devour and we need it back fast. So to combat this, we first have our second weapon of choice, and that is any weapon with the Strategist perk, preferably a Void special weapon if possible. I was rather lucky and managed to get myself an Adept Lotus Eater sidearm with Strategist destabilizing rounds, which is the role I would recommend chasing if you can. Strategist is going to make it so getting kills with the weapon grants a small amount of class ability energy, which is a good baseline to start with, but the really noticeable energy gains come from the artifact perk Volatile Marksman, specifically from the boost it offers. The boost states that volatile detonations grant class ability energy, and again, this is roughly 10% per burst, and because getting a kill with a weapon that has destabilizing rounds on it technically leaves behind a volatile burst, it too will count for this. So when stacking Strategist and Volatile Marksman, per kill you should be receiving a pretty sizable chunk of class ability energy on top of what you're already gaining from Spirit of Filaments. As far as the rest of the artifact is concerned, the other perk we'll be needing from column 2 is Vile Weave. This mod states that targets hit by your tangles are severed, reduce tangle cooldown by picking one up. And turns out this is only a 1-second shave off the timer, but the sever part is really nice, since a tangle explosion is normally pretty big, letting it sever entire groups of ads. On the topic of sever, the next perk we're taking is Disruptor Spike in column 3, which states that it improves the effects of Exhaust and Sever, lowering a target's damage output even further. And it turns out this converts regular sever from a 40% damage reduction to a now 52% damage reduction, which again is going to be super nice and provide some bonus survivability. Lastly, in column 3, we're taking Elemental Siphon, which states that rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. So because we have Song of Flame, we're going to be making some occasional fire sprites from Kvostov multi-kills, and we're also taking advantage of the boost this perk has, which states that elemental pickups grant matching super energy when collected. So now, whenever we collect one, we're also gaining roughly 3% of our Song of Flame back. In column 4, there's only one essential mod we need, and that is Horde Shuttle, which is going to make it so damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a Threadling, with the source of unravel coming from our Arcane Needles. We're also boosting this perk because it states that your Threadlings sever targets that they damage, which is yet another source of sever we can take advantage of. Lastly, in column 5, we're going to need the final perk 2 Shreds, and this perk is a bit of a monster because it's essentially 2 perks in one, since for starters, it states that dealing sustained damage to severed targets unravels them, and second, defeating a severed target creates a hotspot of strand energy, granting Woven Mail to nearby allies for 10 seconds, which is honestly pretty insane. The hotspot itself pulses 3 times, with each one refreshing the duration of Woven Mail back to 10 seconds, and since our weapons, tangles, and threadlings are able to dish out sever, we should be able to spawn in these hotspots fairly frequently. This perk also has a boost, but it isn't really necessary, just the base effects are all that's needed here. As far as your stats are concerned, I would prioritize getting 100 in both resilience and recovery so that your class ability cooldown is reduced to its minimum. Unfortunately, my armor doesn't allow for that, but if yours can, then definitely go for 100 resil and recov, then put the rest into discipline. Okay then, let's wrap things up by going over our mod choices. Starting with the helmet, we have 1 copy of Hands On for some bonus super energy on melee kills, 1 special ammo finder, and kinetic siphon so that Kvostov can make orbs on double kills. For the gloves, we have 2 copies of bolstering detonation so that our stasis turret damage grants some bonus class ability energy, and 1 copy of focusing strike for the same thing but with our melee instead. For the chest piece, we're taking 1 copy of charged up so that we're now able to hold 4 stacks of armor charge and then general resist mods like usual. For the boots, we have stacks on stacks so that each orb collected now grants 2 armor charges, then insulation and recuperation for some extra health and class ability energy on orb pickup. Finally, for the class item, we need 1 copy of utility kickstart so that every time we cast our empowering rift, we gain a small chunk of it back based on the amount of armor charge we were holding. Hence hence why the addition of charged up on the chest piece. After that, be sure to take Reaper and Powerful Attraction to make more orbs and collect them more easily. As far as the gameplay loop is concerned, this build is very much about positioning yourself in an optimal spot where you can just put your rift down and sit there while having a good view of the battlefield, since you're encouraged to stay within it so you get the maximum results from the class item traits. After placing your rift, put down your stasis turret and get as many kills as you can, and once you have your next turret recharged, you're free to move around and collect the woven mail from the strand hotspots, as well as any orbs you created to activate utility kickstart for your next class ability. If you've played any of the other turret build variants, then this one isn't much different. It's just an alternative playstyle that yields similar if not better results while also being plenty of fun. The fashion I used is up on screen, and as always there will be a dim link in the description for you to copy the build hassle-free. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the build and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.